Okie dokie. I am live. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit disorganized this morning. I've got dogs everywhere, Minnie. Oh, my golly gosh. Come on, Min. That's what happens when you've got 7 dogs and 19 horses and doing 100 things. Lucky I'm female. I can multitask. And I still haven't worked out how to turn off my notifications. I won't worry about that today. Can't record my streams at the moment because I haven't upgraded. Okay, just organizing my settings. I think everything is okay. Let me know if you're on. I know, Paula, you should be popping on, and Sarah Becca. Let me know if you're here. Let me just hide this. Oh, I've just been in brain overwhelm. Why won't this little thing go? Go away, you guys. Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, Paula. Oh, my God, Paula. Oh, hey, Sarah Becca. I have been in brain overwhelm about pasture. I got on a bit of a roller. You know, I was still up till after midnight last night researching grasses. I mean, I've been down this rabbit hole many times, and it's just huge. It's huge. And it's so hard to identify grasses as well because these dogs don't bark. I might have to shut the door. Come on, guys. Stop. I've got Minnie here. Say, hello, Min. She's just to sit in my lap. Min, I've got, yeah, it is just insane. It is just so much to take in, and something that I know for me. Yeah, you do, Sarah Becca. I don't know what grasses that you have in your paddock, but I know it's fairly green, isn't it? And especially as we get into the autumn, autumn and spring, and it's huge. I've identified some of your grasses for you, Paula. And that's what I was up last night. Now, I think you've got similar grasses to me. Do you believe it? I've got my hot water bottle here. I love my hot water bottle, except my dog doesn't like it because she wants to be the hot water bottle. I think you've got similar grasses to me, and I went down this path since I've been here. Been here on this property about 2 years. Maybe the horses have been here about 2.5 years. I've had massive problems with pasture. I wasn't even aware of it before. And I had, like I think you said, Paula, that you noticed some signs last year, but you sort of just don't put 2 and 2 together. And it's only when you start to realize learning. Let me just turn this. And it was the same for me because I got here and I started having some really bad issues with my horses and not really connecting pasture to the problems. And then looking back over the last, probably a long time. Yeah, me too. Long time. I started, look, probably even the last 7 years, probably longer. Though up on the Central Coast, when I was up on the Central Coast, I didn't have them out in pasture. I had my own racehorse spelling business. So there was sort of more in paddocks with a bit of pasture, but not much. So mainly since I've been down here near Canberra. And I've learnt so much the last couple of years, and I'm still learning. So we might talk about that too. We might start talking about that. Now, I don't even know where to start because I'm so overwhelmed by it all. And what I might do is do a, what do you call, like a workshop webinar on pasture problems, because there is just so much to learn. And yeah, I just think I've got so much information. I oversowed. Okay, well, if you've oversowed with equine forage seeds, you're probably a lot better than what other situations are, like myself and maybe Paula. So I'll explain my situation. I got here and my horses started to they started to show signs. Well, they started just eating massive amounts of dirt, even though I had a salt lick and a mineral lick out there for them. Rye and fescue for sure. Okay, well, rye's an issue. Definitely rye's an issue, and that's what I was doing. Now, Paula, you have rye in your paddock, that glossy grass that you have, you know, it's like really glossy. That's rye. Ryegrass. Now, I'm pretty sure it's annual ryegrass. And you can identify the different types of ryegrass by getting right in and seeing, I mean, it's just so much. You can identify it. I did a heap of screenshots and everything yesterday. But Paula, did you get onto the Calm Healthy Horses website? Is that where you've been looking? Yeah, not normal. And we've had more rain, so things have changed here a lot. Yes. And as I said, I've got a friend that is in Western Australia as well, and she's been mentioning the same thing. She's had a lot of issues with pasture with the horses, so she's actually taken them off it and got big round bales. And down here in Canberra, like our last summer, it wasn't our last summer, the summer before was really humid. Like you just don't get, great info, Paula. So you don't get, we normally don't get humid weather down here, but the problem with Canberra here is we've got cool season grasses. So your cool season grasses are your ryegrasses, your phalaris grasses, and no, clover's not cool season grass. Clover is a legume grass. I'm going to have to show. Wow. So yeah, it's really ridiculously hot over there too, Sarah Becca, isn't it? Like the weather's just crazy. And so for me, for instance, I found out my horses started licking, like eating massive amounts of dirt, eating through the wood, like huge amounts of just like even through the whole wood fences and everything. And I started thinking, well, I've got them on salt licks. I was recovering from a track work injury. Yeah, sub-zero temps, and that stresses out the pasture. So I think, Paula, you mentioned this, it gets really cold. Frost stress out pasture. I mean, it gets a bit scientific for me, and we'll bring up the Calm Healthy Horses website in a moment, if you can tolerate my screen, my home screen, which has, it's just, I mean, I've got even grasses and everything. Gravitate to the trees and logs on the ground. Yeah. So are they eating bark? And Pearl, are they eating bark and the wood? So my horses were actually eating massive amounts of dirt, and also the bark off the trees, but then the crumbly type of bark. So I did a huge amount of research, not last spring, this spring, I'd just say the last 2 years have been a minefield for me. And I got them on. I ended up going through. So what you can do is test your pastures and really chomping the wood. Yeah, so that's a mineral deficiency. The first thing is, so chomping the wood and eating dirt, and that is a mineral deficiency, unless you've got where you're not providing enough high fiber foragey type of foods. That can be a sign as well if they're just like on green grass and they haven't got some really good forage type food. So just green lush grass is no good for horses. You can't include that as a forage, high fiber. It's full of water, it's full of sugar, and then everything else, which we'll start to talk about. Where do I start? So I've just put, so pasture. So what I've learnt, I'll just do here. Let me just do this. I'll tell you my story, just so you know. And I still am having issues. So I then got them on a minute. So you have options. So you can do pasture tests. Suki, Soaks, come here. Like I can't even get, I've got so much in my head just trying to put it all out. But you can do, so I was recommended, so I started reaching out to equine nutritionists, and I had them on a supplement. I didn't realize it wasn't what they needed. I'd never heard of Feed Excel, which is an excellent equine nutrition tool. Do you know that, Paula and Sarah Becker? Do you know about yeah, that's what I thought. You have plenty of hay. So your problem is mineral deficiency. And mycotoxins as well. You've got exactly the same problem that I've had. Okay, Sarah Becker, fertilized with Alaskan fish liquid. Now this is, I'm not up to date because with what is, so this is where I don't, because I lease here, I'm not in a situation to redo all my paddocks and that. When I own my own place, I'll look at putting in, yeah, okay. Cool. So I don't understand equine pastures, but it'd be really interesting, and that's something that I'll definitely will go into. Copper and a couple of other. Oh, you did it, Sarah Becca. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, the only thing is with, and now Paula, you'd probably put in I've used it again 3 days ago, nothing lacking. Exactly. Grass intake, and you'll notice that I've spoken to absolutely. So Feed XL is fantastic, but it's just part of it. You can't take it accurately. So I put my horses' diets in Feed XL, and yet they have actually, my horses have big head. Such severe. This is how disastrous it has been for me that I've been crying. 1 mineral can throw everything out. It is. And also a lack of ability to absorb the minerals. So my horses have what's called big head, some really severely, where all the bones get swollen, severe calcium deficiency. That's normally what will happen in places where you have oxalate pastures, where it stops the absorption of calcium. I never thought that I would have had it. I've gone through numerous nutritionists. Feed XL doesn't pick it up. I've spoken to 4 or 5, 6 nutritionists, but through 2 years of full-on research and working out what's happening, I have a severe calcium deficiency. It's normally not caused by the type of pasture that I have. Yeah, terrible, horrible, really, really disastrous, and I feel so upset for my horses, and I'll explain the symptoms. So I'll just go back to my path. So I have a sip of coffee. Anyway, I decided, so I did a lot of research. I thought, okay, my horses are showing a sign of mineral deficiency, so I got them on. Eventually I didn't do the pasture testing, because pasture testing can change, like your pasture sugars and your sugars, and what else did I test for? Nitrates, I think. It changes each season. So I thought, I'm in an emergency situation. My horses are eating massive amounts of bark, massive amounts of soil. They started to look really dull in their coat, very dry and sun bleached. So dry and sun bleached look. So if you get that sun bleached look in their mane and tail, that's a sign of a pasture affected horse. And so I ended up finding a mineral. Belinda's in Australia, Belinda's Amazing Minerals. So I ended up speaking to Belinda. She's fantastic. She was wonderful, and I got them on Belinda's Amazing Minerals. And I've had them on that. I have had them on that up until recently for quite a long while. I still started to have issues. So they stopped eating. So when they were on the Belinda's Amazing Minerals, which is she makes for each state in Australia. So Paula, you're on the Calm Healthy Horses one, but you could do, it's the Calm Healthy Horses one is fantastic as well. It's all about the minerals and the mineral balances, and also mycotoxins. So I'll talk about mycotoxins in a moment, and a toxin binder, but I'll go back to my story. So they started to improve on the Belinda's Amazing Minerals. So have a young tree, and then she couldn't get the bark. Absolutely. Yeah, it's mineral deficiency, and it's because of I don't even know where to start. The part. So are you supplementing? Were you supplementing with any supplements up until recently? What was that? Did you have any sort of like a multivitamin mineral? I did with my horses, but it wasn't even touching the edges. And it definitely doesn't do anything with the mycotoxins. So anyway, I'll go back to my path. So I got them on the Belinda's Amazing Minerals, which has a toxin binder in it as well. As I got through spring and summer, I was on Red Cat Minerals, but there was no calcium, and that would, oh, really? Wow. So this is another thing, and on Calm Healthy Horses, I'm going to bring it up in a moment because there's just so much valuable information on there. I'll bring up a couple of websites, and you can go and have a look, because, I mean, you keep reading and reading. So I was on a similar thing, recommend California Minerals. So really So it is really Pacific, and then I wonder this area is weird. Yeah, you have to look for symptoms too, Sarah Becca. So if you're here with Paula, her symptoms, her horses have been. I'll go back and read your comment, Paula. We'll just go through the symptoms that you've had, because it's just there's such a range of symptoms. Oh, okay. So you've asked me, Paula, can you please talk about what you know about grass-affected horses? I do remember mentioning that you don't like grass after this past week. Neither do I. My girls, one in particular, have turned into complete nutcases and are displaying many grass-affected symptoms. So no more grass for them for a while. Yeah, now I've got this issue. I've got to get 19 horses off grass, and it's just so hard. So my girl, I've done a lot of reading over the past 48 hours, and I'm blown away by what I found. It's just a rabbit hole, isn't it? It's mind blowing. So one of my girls has probably never really full on grazed before. I have gotten her straight off the track. Last year she seemed okay, although looking back I can see it did have some effect on her. But this year, oh my, yeah. And I think, as you said, the weather is the humidity, and same down here, the humidity. It's stress. Also, the weather is stressing the grass. We go from really dry to frost to humidity, where it breeds a huge amount of fungus and mycotoxins. I would love to hear any thoughts, experience, and knowledge regarding OTTPs and how they can become grass affected. Yeah, well, all horses can become grass affected. So some of your symptoms. So she's been very hyper spooky. Yes. Spurts of galloping and bucking, major fence walking, trotting, gone off her food, constant raised head and heightened posture, seems spaced out. Now this is so there's just a minefield of symptoms. Spaced out. Now I've had that problem. I've got some videos of my poor Tommy, who's one of the worst, that gets very much pasture affected, and he's spaced out. She has brilliantness, and she took hers off weeks ago. Even said she never thought mine would be affected, as they have a lot less pasture. Yeah, it really is toxic. Pasture can be so toxic. So very difficult to handle. Yeah. Can't stand still. And 2 days ago, I noticed she has swelling on both sides of her girth area, painful to touch. I couldn't even touch Tommy. So it's like, I couldn't, Tommy, this was not, now this is, so he was sort of spaced out, but he got so hypersensitive to touch, I couldn't even touch him. My horses would come out in massive hives. So we went from being on the minerals, where they started stopping eating the wood and the dirt. So they were okay like that, but they were still, they started to, as I came into spring, I think it was in autumn were the worst, they started to come out in hives. They started to go from this, a couple of my horses, like Nina particularly, would just explode into this galloping around the paddock and then stop. Then I had things when I bring them in and they were really spaced out. I had head flicking, head shaking, all of this. So you've got swelling on both sides of the area, painful to touch. It sounds like something like an inflammation or something that's happening. So this has been happening on and off since the grasses came, but has been getting progressively worse each episode, day after day on pasture. The past 2 days have been terrible, so I've kept her off the grass, and then I've yesterday cut back on very basic feed. Started on Graze Easy from Calm Healthy Horses and salt. Yeah. I can't remember what's in Graze Easy, but I think it's a mixture of calcium, magnesium. I'm not sure what type of grasses we have. I've tried to figure out, but it's difficult. So have a lot of cape weed last year. She didn't eat, but this year she's picking out on the leaves. So that's definitely bad. Cape weed's bad. That affects the neurological system. I'm pretty sure that's right. I mean, I just get a bit confused. Oat grass, rye's bad. That tufty grass, that's almost luminescent green. So that is just one day, but I think that's another symptom. Yeah, urinating. So urinating is have to look. I think that's them trying to excrete the excess potassium and nitrates. So I was looking at your the head tossing, head flicking is usually mycotoxin related. So that's toxins in the pasture. I mean, I know I'm probably jumping all over the place here because it is a real minefield. So I looked at, so you've got mold. We looked at, so with Paula, we've got mold on our grasses. Let me see if I can, I'll probably confuse you if I start bringing them up, but there's mold. There's also, you've got that very luminous green grass is ryegrass. And I'm pretty sure with my research last night, and I've gone down this before, it's annual ryegrass. So you've got the perennial ryegrass is what they call ryegrass staggers. But what's really scary is you get phalaris. Yeah, fungi. Is that the same as mold? Yes, toxic nevertheless. Yeah, it's so you can see the mold on grasses. So you'll see I've had a lot of problems with phalaris getting this mold in the humidity, and you can actually see it on the grass, but the mycotoxins most of the time you can't see. Let's go into so I'll just explain. So I'll just quickly give you a brief a summary of my situation. And then my horses started having what seems to have been mycotoxin related. So I got them on the minerals, but it wasn't touching, like they stopped eating the dirt and grass, but then they started getting head flicking. And this was in spring and summer. Breaking out in hives, that crazy sort of spurty behavior. Then they go into a real, like bring them in sometimes from the pasture. And this can happen overnight. I'll let them out overnight because I've got about 50 acres here, a combination of phalaris grass, ryegrass, clover's not so much now. We had a bit of clover. I've got, I think, oak grass in there as well. My main problems are the phalaris grass and the ryegrass. I've got fireweed through there, but they don't touch that. I had a lot of problems with actually seeing fungus and mold on my grasses like you are, Paula. Once I started looking into it and being awake to what could be happening. So then I was like, oh my God, I brought them in. So I bring my horses in over daytime in the yards, depending on what's happening, if I'm injured or not. Sometimes I'll come in really early. Sometimes I won't come into lunchtime through the time when I've been injured over the 2 years. But my goal is to have them completely off the pasture. And what I did is I started reaching out to equine nutritionists when I started to see all these symptoms. So Nerida Richards from Feed Excel was fantastic. She actually spoke to me on the phone. This was about a year and a half ago when I started having this real zonked out, zoned out appearance. So with poor Tommy, I've got lots of videos of him. I think I've shared them in the past. I'll bring them up again. I wasn't getting any big head signs, though. Tommy did have a raised forehead, but I honestly, someone who has worked with horses now, I've been working with horses full time for over 20 years, 17, it's nearly 18 years in the racing industry, plus show jumping, dressage, and all of this. And I just didn't know about big head. I'm not in Queensland or down in Victoria where you're grazing on oxalate pastures. I just did not think that this raised area on his head, and also bonds on my other ones, I wasn't aware. I didn't know. So it's amazing how you can be around horses for so long and still continually learn. I just was not aware of any of this pasture stuff until it's got so bad that my horses are displaying big head. Now, when they get big head, which is the raised, bones starting to appear on their face, like raised forehead, this is how bad it is and how heartbreaking it has been for me. And seriously, I've only been aware of this the last 3 months. Always learning. But by the time they display big head problems, their skeletal system has already taken out 30% of their calcium stores from their skeleton, from their bones. So it is just heartbreaking. So that's how bad it's got. And not really being aware, I thought it was mycotoxins that my horses were struggling from. And it has been, but Yeah, I mean, it's just massive. So I'll go back to the toxin thing because mycotoxins are huge. So I got them on toxin binders, but I was having so many problems with mycotoxins. Yeah, really bad, Paula. Like, I'll get photos, and I'm going to do a big journal on my journal of this whole pasture thing. And I've done a big buy. Seriously, I can really give some Conky's Own. Amazing. I've actually just bought 6 months worth of Cal Extra. John Conky, Dr. John Conky, has been incredible with his equine nutritionist, Sian and Philippa. They've just been so helpful. Nerida Richards from Feed XL, she's been wonderful. Belinda from Amazing Minerals. So many people have been so wonderful, and just putting this massive puzzle together. I'm in Australia, so these are Australian equine nutritionists and companies that have been fantastic. So it's a combination of a lot of things that have caused my horses to be like this. Now, we've worked out, so I went down the mycotoxin path, and what's happened, mycotoxins. So you've got, let's look at the problems with pasture. So we've got mycotoxins. We've got fructans, and high non-structural carbohydrates, and we've got pastures that are stopping the imbalancing minerals. So without keeping this live could go on for about 4 hours. So I have everything. I have the whole lot. Now with my problem, I'm on cool season grasses, and Paula, you've got cool season grasses as well. Sarah Becker, I'm not sure what you've got. You'd have to you'd be able to identify your grasses and keep an eye out for any displays of what's happening. But the first thing we need to look at is if you're on lush green grass is no good for horses. First one, no good. Horses weren't designed to graze on lush green grass. Now my problem has been I've had mycotoxin problems. I've got pasture that is high. So what we've eventually worked out is that my pasture is ex high production. It's an ex high production property where they were production for sheep and cattle. So it's interesting to look at. A lot of the pasture that we have around that horses are now grazing on has been designed for sheep and cattle, dairy cows, particularly down in Victoria, that are designed for high production, getting the sheep and cattle fat, and full of getting fat and ready for slaughter or producing milk. Okay, it's not for horses. It is really detrimental to horses. There's green grass, rye, clover, phalaris is all pasture that is high in fructans, fattening, fast growth grass that gets all your stock fat and ready for slaughter. You know, they want to pump them through, slaughter them and get more. This is what our horses are grazing on, and it is no good. I didn't know this. Seriously, when I first moved here, the first thing I thought was, oh, wow, look at all this pasture. Oh, this is so wonderful. Let alone now I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare, this pasture. Like, it's terrible. So if you got green pasture for a start, it's not good for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's going to be high in non-structural high carbohydrates, which is your sugars, which is going to imbalance the gut bacteria, cause a lot of problems like your laminitis. I've also had problems with laminitis with 2 of my horses, particularly my riding pony got acute laminitis overnight. And so that's the first problem with your pastures. Your second one is your mycotoxins. So a lot of pastures, a lot of grasses have what they call mycotoxins, which can be deadly to horses. Mycotoxins are also found in horse feeds. And it's interesting, a lot of members in our group and people that I talk to over in the States, this will be interesting for you, Sarah Becker, the processed feeds, there's so much, what do they call it? Distillers grains in your feeds over there. And Wheat, whole wheat middlings. We have wheat middlings here in Australia. Wheat is bad for horses. I've spoken about that before. But you'll get mycotoxins in feeds as well, and particularly feeds, processed feeds that are have distillers grains and everything. They can actually kill horses. There's been situations where I think in South Australia and also over in the States, horses have died from mycotoxin exposure, like eating mycotoxins from not only pasture but also from feeds. So, and I'm really big on looking at the ingredients of your feeds. Make sure you haven't got any distillers grains, any of that the grain byproducts like wheat, mill run, mill mix. You've got this wheat flour. You've got all of this over in the States, but we're much better in Australia. We've got some really good equine feed production companies. I always recommend sticking to the equine only. Don't go to cheaper feeds that process other livestock feeds because it contaminates horse feeds. So your cheaper feeds, some companies will do, cattle, sheep feed and all of that, as well as have your horse pellets. But what is okay for cattle can be deadly for horses. So that goes through the same mill and it contaminate feed. So always stick to, in Australia, I really like Prides, High Gain, Mitavite. I stick with Prides just because Nerida Richards works for Prides. And also too, I know I've spoken to them personally. You still have to look at Pride's feeds because some of them have, you still have your wheat in it. But they've got they've got some really good feeds that are very clean. My second one is High Gain. And I know Sen's very expensive, but I think Sen Nutrition's okay. But they're just, they're sort of more of a niche market there. Okay. So I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting a little bit off track, but where was I up to? Have a sip of coffee. So mycotoxins. Then you've then got, the high structural carbohydrates. So an incredible amount of, in grain grasses, an incredible amount of starch and sugars that will cause laminitis and all these terrible problems, metabolic diseases. Then we've got, which is what Paula Paula and I have had problems with, and so many others as well, imbalances in the absolutely essential minerals for horses, for their system. So calcium, magnesium, phosphorus. So what's happened with my horses is a complete block of calcium absorption. So the high phosphorus has stopped calcium absorption in my horses to the stage where they've got big head. Now, this is common in horses that graze high oxalate pastures, which is Soteria. Look, I don't know them off by hand. I've got my brain is pasture overwhelmed at the moment, but you'll get them down to Victoria. Worldwide, you have these oxalate pastures. And my situation was, because my property is an high production property across the road, they've subdivided it. It's been highly fertilized with high nitrate, high phosphorus fertilizer, continually fertilized and then plowed, and then new, high production grasses put through, which has really made the soil a very high. Now, I'm still a bit confused with that, but high phosphorus, the high nitrate, high phosphorus is causing the grass to be very high in phosphorus. Excess phosphorus blocks calcium absorption. So my horses haven't been able to absorb the calcium, even though I've been having them on a normal mineral supplement. That's one of my problems. Also, blocking of calcium. They're completely low in magnesium, so the head flicking. A lot of my symptoms as well, you might be interested to have a look with your horses, Paula, is muscle twitching. When they're trying to get rid of a fly, but there's no flies around, you'll see their muscles twitching, particularly on their neck and around their shoulder. I've got heaps of videos of this. So they'll be standing there and you'll see these muscles twitching. And that's a sign of mycotoxins, the head flicking, mycotoxins, as well as, it's sort of, it's a bit holistic because the mycotoxins are causing toxins to be put through their bloodstream. I'll go into that at the moment, but it's also causing mineral imbalances, and the mineral imbalances are causing lack of magnesium. So to try and get rid of the excess potassium, the body also excretes calcium and magnesium to try and get rid of, I think it's nitrates, but definitely excess potassium. It's a complete mineral imbalance. So the horse's body is excreting, which is probably a sign of the excess urinating. And therefore, the body is excreting excess magnesium and calcium with the excess potassium. So this is why I think the salt, we'll go into Calm Healthy Horses in a moment and have a look. Fructans, okay, so fructans, which are particular types of grasses. So my paddock has cool season grasses. There's different types of starches. So you've got your simple sugars, your carbohydrates, but your fructans, without getting confused, which I'm a bit confused, but your fructans are a type of sugar which the horse finds a lot harder to digest, and it's mainly in forages and pasture, like ryegrasses, phalaris. So the horse does not have the enzyme ability to digest. The fructans normally get digested in the hindgut. Now, if there's an overload of fructans in the hindgut, the system is, their hindgut is overloaded. It kills off the good bacteria. It creates a bad bacteria fermenting situation. So your horses have, this is where colic can come in, but also laminitis. So fructans, so grasses that have their sugars mainly in fructans is not good for horses. And we'll go on to the Calm Healthy site to have a look at that as well. I know I'm all over the place, guys, but let's just have a little bit of a look. 2 really good sites. I'm going to go to 2 sites. Now, please excuse my crazy screen. I hope you can see this. So I've just got, let me see if I can go down here. I want to be able to, can you see my screen? So let me put in Calm Healthy Horses is, oops. So I'll take you to 2 sites that are really good to research. So let me go to home. So this will just give you somewhere to start. Oh, why is it unblocked? Oh. Okay. Can you see this, guys? Is my screen like crazy? You can't see. Let me hear. Okay. So this is, can you read this? Can you read the, see the screen here? Let me know if you can see it. I'm trying to read the comments. And, oh my God, I'm so not tech savvy. Anyway, this is one site to look at. Calm Healthy Horses. Let me just see if I'll try and move this over so I can see your guys, your comment without. So Calm Healthy Horses is an excellent site to find out all about pasture affected horses. So let's go into grass affected. I'll just take you through the site. I think that, let's have a look at, you will be amazed at some of the signs of mineral imbalances. Some you would never associate with diet. So, okay, let's just have a read here. We'll just have a little read without me getting so confused. So I'm just trying to keep your comments in that. So let's have a look. Good one day, they're not so great the next. So the metabolism of normally functioning non-grass affected horses is perfectly capable of leveling out fluctuations in the nutrient composition of the grass. While the horse's metabolism remains robust and functioning, seasonal and weather-related spikes in potassium, nitrates, and sugars do not cause problems. So the metabolic process of maintaining internal equilibrium is called homeostasis. This process involves various glands which produce the messenger hormones. Certain buffer minerals and micronutrients also need to be present. So the purpose of homeostasis is to maintain the internal environment to prevent it being overcome by external factors that can potentially disrupt balance. So this is what's happening when our horses are becoming grass affected. It's causing a massive imbalance in their internal environment. So when horses graze continuously on grass that stays green all year round, the temporary spikes become more like constant assault and their self-regulating homeostatic mechanisms become compromised. So that's what my horse has. My horses have. That's what your horses have, Paula. So now, why the reasons that their imbalance. Let's have a look here. Imbalance happens is many reasons, as we've just been talking about. So we need to look at, if we're grazing on green grass, we need to look at this. So the horse reaches a tipping point, is now susceptible to these changes, which may be caused by cool nighttime temperatures, frosts, consecutive cloudy days, rain events, especially after a dry spell. So homeostasis is now prone to disruption, which presents as being grass affected. So you're looking at grass affected horses. So everything from head shaking, which I've had, equine metabolic syndrome, EMS, laminitis, sacroiliac issues, behavioral problems. So example for my horses have got clicking joints. Okay, they've been unsound, very stiff in their movement. So you know the homeostatic mechanisms are not coping when you see these changes in the horse on the outside, loosely referred to as being grass affected. Symptoms will come and go. Generally, the horse will be better over dry spells, more symptomatic a couple of days after rain, and not so good in spring and autumn. Many people who have kept diaries have observed differences in their horse behavior within a few days after it starts raining. So then she goes here, this is why you learn to vary the amount of graze easy accordingly. So that's her product. There's many products of, I think she provides it overseas as well, which is really good. So you can help even things out by making sure the horse gets plenty of non-clover. Oh, see, I don't mind. Now, lucerne hay is, I feed lucerne, but this is depending on your situation. So refrain from over-harrowing paddocks, fields, or fertilizing with nutrients like NPK, nitrate, phosphorus. I don't know what that is, but it's high nitrate phosphorus. Okay, so let's just go to grass affected. Oh, is that what I've done? Let's have a look at aspects of pasture. Can you see this, guys? Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments if you can read it. So look at this. So this is extra. So this is a valuable website, Calm Healthy Horses. So you'll see here she's got some images over here. Contrast this feral horse's dry living environment. So see how the natural environment for horses is a dry, low starch, low sugar, low starch feed, and not this green lush grass. So you'll see on the bottom here, this green lush grass is not good for horses and not natural. It's called improved grasses. And so she's got contrast this feral horse's dry living environment and his subsequent blooming good health with the photo below of a domestic horse on an improved pasture paddock in a much wetter environment. So you'll see overgrazed grass is unsuitable for any horse. So this grass at a great stage of growth, however, unless managed, so green grass is no good. We've also got issues with drought, stressed soils. Okay. Mycotoxins. Let's just go over here first before we get into mycotoxins. So the forage, the equine species has a digestive system designed to derive nutrition from continuous throughout, from a continuous throughput of relatively low nutrient density, high fiber forage. They have the opposite requirements to production livestock who are ruminants designed to consume plants at a less mature, high nutrient density stage of growth for rapid weight gain and milk production. So this is where my problem has come in. My pasture has been designed for production livestock, and the type of grasses that I have are designed for production livestock. So we're looking at species, the stage of growth, mineral imbalances, crude protein and nitrogen, starches and sugars, fluorescing pigments. So another symptom of pasture-affected horses and mycotoxins. Sorry, my dog's scraping on the grass here. Is, mud fever, that type of the white parts of their legs and nose get sunburnt. So that's sunburnt. Horses that get sunburnt on the white skin is usually caused by pasture, being pasture affected by the fluorescing pigments in it. So these are all the problems that pasture can cause. Mineral imbalances, sugar and starches cause these problems, hormonal and mycotoxins. So here we go. So this is my problem here. The species, unsuitable species of grass are cool season grasses, which include all strains of ryegrass, clovers, and tall fescue, whether endophyte free or not. They have a propensity for rapid growth and are inherently high in potassium, crude protein, sugars, and starches. So they're high in fructans, which are sugars. A type of sugar. Also unsuitable are warm season high oxalate grasses. So this is where you get the oxalate grasses that affect calcium absorption, like your buffle and soteria grass. Other species of oxalate grasses can work as long as the oxalate properties are addressed with properly formulated calcium supplement as fed. Okay, so this is where I have my severe calcium deficiency. I now have my horses on Cal Extra. This site also has their own extra Cal product. I'm on Conky's own Cal Extra. They've been amazing. I actually have 6 months worth. I'm going through 11.7 kilos of Cal Extra a week now. I've just started them on it. So the vast majority of grasses are suitable for horses when grazed at a mature stage of growth. I'm not sure about the cool season grasses up here are not suitable at any time. Really hard when you've got 19 horses like myself, limited area, and you can't graze and you're trying to get them off it. It's just so hard. I'm a bit overwhelmed by it all, but a learning curve. So we've got here, clovers are never suitable for horses and need to be actively eliminated from any pasture. These include all varieties, bird's foot, trefoil. So Paula, you have clover in your pasture, so that's not good either. Now I have to go and make another coffee. And dash to excuse being abrupted. I need to go and do a wee. Sorry, guys, I'll be back in 1 moment. Is that okay? Can I just let you read there for 1 moment? I'll leave my dog here. I'll make another coffee. Okay. I'm back. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to dash to the loo and make another coffee. Okay, so I hope you can read this. Let me know in the comments. So, where are we up to? Okay, so clover. Okay, Paula, broadleaf varieties, plantain, cadello, center, viet, and others like catsia and capeweed, which are classed as weeds. You've got quite a few weeds in your paddock, and I do too. I find with myself that at certain times of the year, I get very similar to what you've got, Paula, I've got in my paddock. I don't know if you've got phalaris there. Oh, we'll go into phalaris. That's a nightmare. But if we have time, well, while a few plants here and there pose no problem, when they take over the land under certain conditions, they cause health issues. So it's not good when they're eating weeds like cape weeds. So that's very known to cause string halt, which is that weird stepping. That is a neurological condition. It affects. So what happens with pasture is it affects them. One of the symptoms is it affects their neurological system. I mean, there's so much to go through. I wouldn't be able to do it in one live. But if I give you, we start here, hey. So let's look at stage of growth. This is influenced by soil, season, weather, fertilizers, and grazing pasture. So I've had a problem with fertilizers. Be aware that any species of grass becomes unsuitable when grown on fertilized soils. Now, this is, Sarah Becker, this is not, if you're fertilizing with a horse-friendly, creating a horse-friendly pasture, but when you're fertilizing for high production, stock, which has been my problems like phosphates and nitrates, this is when it's unsuitable. So grown on fertilized soil. So any species of grass becomes unsuitable when grown on fertilized soil, grazed at a young stage of growth, particularly after drought-breaking rain, stressed by frost, drought, or overgrazing, riddled with clover, capeweed, plantain, too many herbs. So I think that, Paula, you've got herby-looking things in there as well. Okay, now let's look at how it affects them. Mineral imbalances. These directly affect electrolyte homeostasis. So the mineral imbalance, so certain pastures, for a variety of reasons, high starch, high sugar, mineral imbalances, mycotoxins directly affect homeostasis, electrolyte homeostasis, hormones, and metabolism. So that's your electrolytes, so your calcium, your magnesium, your sodium, your phosphorus. These are so important for the whole system going, but muscle contraction, muscle contraction and relaxation. So, for instance, magnesium deficiency is a sign. So, the head flicking is a sign of magnesium deficiency is one of the reasons. So, it affects electrolyte homeostasis. Nerves, so these directly affect nerves and muscles and therefore coordination and scope of movement. Calcium deficiency, the string halt, these are all symptoms of these mineral imbalances. It also affects brain function, eyesight and behavior, growth including skeletal development, duration of useful life and longevity, all aspects of reproduction. I'm not sure here, so I'm not sure. It's interesting. She says here, I think I clicked on this, why her products aren't on Feed Excel. And as you said, Paula, and I've done myself, I love Feed Excel, but it's used as just one aspect. You have to be holistic in looking at it because it is not going to, Feed Excel is not going to show pasture affected issues. It's not going to bring up whether your horse has mycotoxins issues or anything like that. So if you've got, you can put it in to make sure that your minerals are balanced, but then also look at other aspects if you're grazing on pasture to see if this can be affecting your horse in any way. So as I said, my horse's diet's balanced in Feed Excel, but I mean, they've got big head. So, you know, there you go. And that's nothing, that's not against Feed Excel. Feed Excel is fantastic, but it's just being aware that it's just one part, one tool of many that you need to consider when looking at your horse's diet and issues that may be coming up. Crude protein and nitrogen. Ruminant animals are able to convert nitrogen into ammonia, which then can be utilized by the bacteria in the rumen for synthesis of amino acids. So horses cannot utilize nitrogen in this way because they don't have a rumen or the enzymes necessary for this process. So this is where excess urination is a sign of the horse excreting the excess nitrates. So nitrates still need to be excreted. However, the process of excreting excess nutrients, excess nitrates, robs the horse of precious calcium and magnesium, which is a major factor contributor to horses becoming grass affected. Horses in their natural habitat thrive on plants growing on unfertile land. So I hope this makes sense. Okay. Sugars, starches, and fructans. While clovers and lucerne store their sugars as starch, which is easily digestible, all varieties of ryegrass store their sugars as fructans, which horses cannot digest. So this is my problem with my horses. I've got ryegrasses, also phalaris. Paula, you have ryegrass as well. I'm not sure if you have phalara. Oh, I can't see your comments. Oh, no. Guys, why can't I see your comments? I'm so sorry. I've been chatting. Sarah Becca, thank you for the message. Why is that? I was wondering why I wasn't hearing. Okay. Well, that's a bugger. Why can't... I've got... My last comment is from you, Paula. It says, oh, my God. Chat. If I type a message, I'll just say hello. I'll just type a message. Oh, bugger. Wait a sec. I'll just type in and see if you can see my comments. I'll just type back to you. Thanks for letting me know, Sarah Becca. I've typed in a message saying, can you see this message? I wonder why. Oh, okay. Wait a... Chat overlay. Oh, I can see. Okay. So I've got I don't know why. Okay. If I open YouTube, I might lose you. How do I open? Oh, I might lose the screen sharing. I might just chat. Okay. I wonder why that happened. Oh, what have I done? Okay, I might just keep going because I'm confused. I'm confused. And I don't know what's happened. Anyway, I might just keep going, and then we can talk about it. We can talk at pop questions. So I'll just keep going, and then pop questions. We'll talk about it because I'll just don't know why I can't see your comments. So go away. I've got notifications coming up everywhere. So I'll just Tech. Hey, anyway, I'll just keep going here, because then at least you've got information, and then we can chat about it in our next live maybe, or in the group. So where are we? Because then I can show you the other website, and you've got some resources to visit. So, okay, we were up to crude protein and nitrogen. So the nitrates still need to be excreted. However, the process of excreting the nitrates robs the horse of the precious calcium and magnesium, which is a major contributor to horses becoming grass affected. So horses in their natural habitat thrive on plants growing on non-fertile land. So horses, when we see the green grass, if you've got your horse grazing on green grass, start to think, well, I could be having issues here. Green grass is never good. So sugar, starches, and fructans. So this is interesting. While clovers and lucerne store their sugars as starch, which is easily digestible, all varieties of ryegrass store their sugars as fructans, which horses cannot digest. And as I said just a moment ago, high production grasses, which include all strains of ryegrass, tall fescue, and even timothy and cocksfoot, can become high in sugars while they are in the growth mode. So that's why we've got the spring coming, spring growing into summer, and even now autumn. As grass matures, it becomes higher in fiber as the sugars, which are the non-structural carbohydrates, are converted to structural carbohydrates. So it becomes less, as they become dry and brown and less green, it makes it infinitely more suitable for horses. Mature grass is past the soft green and leafy stage and is stalky and hardened off. So that's much better, though, when you've got grasses like myself, and any ryegrasses, when they're brown, and I have found that in my grasses, Phalaris in particular, when it's gone into summer after a particularly humid summer as well, or going through humid summer, they've dried off and they've gone brown, but Phalaris is still quite bad. But then I've seen mold on them, on the brown grass. So just because it's gone brown doesn't mean it's safe. So these are the fluorescering pigments. This is interesting. These are the pigments present in all grasses, but much more so in the dark green ones, such as ryegrasses. So Paula, our issue, the clovers and lucerne. Now, this is where I don't have a problem with, I haven't had a problem with lucerne, but I'm feeding a haylage as well, but horses can react to lucerne. We think it's the excess potassium or these fluorescing pigments. St. John's wort, buttercup, and plantain. They give these plants their darker green color. These pigments, fluoresce, are activated by light and known to cause photophobia and photosensitization. So what this is, if you see, so this is the true cause of mud fever and sunburn. So more often than not, if your horse has mud fever and sunburn, it's because of pasture. So when you remove these plants from the horse's diet, these conditions go away and do not reoccur. So hormonally active compounds. So this is another issue with pastures. Phytoestrogens are plant estrogens. When consumed by livestock, they can exert potent estrogenic activity, thereby seriously hampering reproductive performance. Red and subterrane clovers, and to a lesser extent white clover, have a high phytoestrogen content. Animals grazing pastures containing these clovers can develop fertility and other health problems. So Paula, you have white clover in your paddock. I wasn't sure about your other clover that has sort of like that brown bit in it. It looks like white clover that may have some fungus on it. I was going to ask you about that one. So without turning this live into like 4 hours long, I just wanted to then go into facts about right now. Let's just go into ryegrass. And because you've got these sites now to visit, you can read up more on it. So ryegrass, which is such a common, we know about perennial ryegrass, caused ryegrass staggers. So what's the ryegrass? Now, this is one of the problems that I have with my horses, not only all the mineral imbalances, but the mycotoxins in it. So what a good situation with mycotoxins, to help with mycotoxins, and mycotoxin binder is fed. And that's something that you maybe want to look at, Paula. So let's look at ryegrass. So ryegrass harbors endophyte fungi, which produce mycotoxins under certain conditions, mainly those of spring and autumn. The endophytes grow up as the plant grows and collects in the seed heads, so that the next plant will also contain these endophytes. Mycotoxin production increases with rising temperatures and seed head development of the plant in summer and then again autumn. So this is why horses, they'll say horses, coming into summer, spring and autumn, my horse starts gets pasture crazy, grass affected. Whatever mycotoxins were present in the grass when it was baled will remain in the hay made from that grass. So this is why I don't ever feed ryegrass now. And I fed ryegrass and oaten and wheaten hay and everything in the past, and I don't feed any of that now. But this is one of the reasons I do not touch ryegrass. So why don't these grasses have mycotoxins? So it's important to understand that endophytes and their mycotoxins are on the plant side. In particular, they deter insects from eating the grass. They therefore help protect the grass from insect damage and grazing by herbivores. Oh, okay. They protect the grass from insect damage and grazing by herbivores, therefore increase the grass's chance of seeding and reproduction. I don't understand what she means by herbivores, but they're a protection. They're there to protect the grass. It is well known that in late summer, autumn, the ryegrass endophyte produces lolitrum B, a mycotoxin which affects the central nervous system of livestock consuming it. So this is what's called the ryegrass staggers. Livestock become uncoordinated, staggering in their hindquarters, sometimes even falling over. It is like they are drunk. Now, this is how my horses have been. They haven't fallen over, but they become drunk-like. And that's maybe what you're experiencing with your horses, Paula. Of course, they are accident prone when affected and liable to fall into fences and ditches. The other major mycotoxin produced by the endophytes in the ryegrass is called ergovaline. It is equally, if not even more harmful, as it has vasoconstricting effect on the blood vessels to various organs. It is well known to cause heat stress in livestock. Horses can be seen sweating just out in the paddock when it isn't even particularly hot and they have not been exercising at all. So the vasoconstriction happens in the uterus, then it can cause abortions. If it happens to parts of the intestine, then it causes hindgut necrosis, such as death of a section of the digestive tract, which of course manifests seriously, usually fatal colic. Make it your business to be able to recognize these grasses. Ryegrass is easily identified by its dark green, long and narrow leaves, which are shiny on the back, and also by its long, narrow seed head with alternatively arranged seeds on their side head. I'm riddled with ryegrass, and that's what you've got. And it grows in, like that bunch-like, grows in tufts. So you can see how here, let's see if we can I expand this? I've got 150 million photos of ryegrass, but I can't expand it. But you can see how it's got that luminous type of look to it. Okay, so this is your red clover. I won't go into all of the grasses because we'll be here forever. Let's just have a look. Won't go into the lucens. Capeweed. Okay, so capeweed has been indicated in cases of stringhorn, which is neurological as well. So you can read up more on these here. You've got cat's ear, which is dandelion. I'll let you read up more on that. But this, I just wanted to explain here ryegrass because that's one of the baddies. And she talks about here, what about zero endophyte? Is they now making ryegrass that zero endophyte? That's still no good. Let's have a look, because I think this is important to know. What about zero endophyte, novel endophyte, or low endophyte ryegrass? Because that's quite common now. You see low endophyte ryegrass or zero endophyte ryegrass hay sold. So these are ryegrasses that have been artificially modified to either eliminate the endophytes altogether or just the most toxic endophytes while retaining the less toxic ones. So none of them are suitable for horses. So why is this? If it is a small amount scattered through your pasture amongst your other grasses, it won't be a problem. However, do not sow it. Ryegrasses are meant for rapid weight gain and milk production in commercial livestock, which do not have a long lifespan. As we know, commercial livestock are there to get fat, grow, create milk, go to slaughter, and then reproduce and go to slaughter. So there are multiple reasons why ryegrass causes serious health and behavioral problems in horses, even when the endophytes have been removed. They are prone to serious mineral imbalances. They're way too high in the non-structural carbohydrates, so way too high in sugars and starches. They store their sugars in indigestible fructans. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's my problem. And yours, Paula. They are high in fluorescing pigments, so we went through all these problems before. So that's really important to know. Now, I think I've covered, let's look at nitrogen. Let's have a quicker look at clover. See all these green grasses? This is what my pasture, well, even my pasture looks a bit dried off at the moment, but it's still got green through it. This looks like your pasture, Paula. See this right where I've got my little arrow? That looks like your pasture. Okay, the grass above was fertilized with Nutri-Grow. Compare that to the grass below. The same farm, which received no fertilizer, has a range of great grasses. So horse-friendly grasses. Grass sprouting after drought-breaking rain. I have that problem. I think we do in Australia, probably overseas as well. I'm sure over in your place, Sarah Becker, where you are. Let's just have a quick read of clover. Protein and nitrogen in pasture grass. I need a drink of water here. At certain times of the year, which is spring and autumn, under certain climatic conditions, cloudy days, frosts, and after drought-breaking rain, crude protein levels in pasture can increase to levels which cause problems for horses. Ingestion of excess nitrogen is a contributor to grass-affected syndrome, along with other aspects we are aware of, including potassium and sugar levels. So grass-affected, we've not only got potassium, high potassium, sugar levels, we've got this extra nitrogen as well. All forage and feed analysis will include crude protein reading. So the crude protein in plants is comprised of both true protein and spare nitrogen, non-protein nitrogen. This is a bit scientific here, NPN. So true protein is made up of long chains of amino acids all strung together. Nitrogen is required for protein synthesis. Okay, so grasses and legumes and certain other broadleaf plants will take up more nitrogen than they need when it is readily available to them. In autumn and spring, under certain conditions, crude protein levels can exceed 20 to even 13%. So we have analysed pasture where horses ran into trouble, so laminitis and repeated bouts of colic, with crude protein levels of 36%. Okay, so that's very high crude protein levels. So when horses consume more than their requirement of nitrogen or protein, they will drink more water and urinate more. Paula, there we go. And I'm noticing my horses drink more water. So this may be your problem with urinating more. This is probably your clover issue. So the urine will be strong and with a smell of ammonia, which can be a problem if the horse is kept in confined space, or it may burn the grass and leave brown patches on the pasture. Now, this is quite common in racehorses, that their urine will smell really strong of ammonia, and this is because of their really high protein content in their diet. Sometimes I've gone into racing stables and their urine is so strong it sort of burns your nose, and your eyes. You can smell it. So they're excreting the excess the excess nitrogen out of their diet that they're taking in with the excess protein. Nitrogen in the form of nitrates from plants can have the effect of robbing the horse of precious calcium and magnesium, especially when there is a lack of sodium. So this is just one of the reasons to add salt to your horse's feed. So this is another aspect of all these pasture-related issues. If you've got clover, which is a legume, and it's going into there creating more crude protein, which is creating more nitrates. So the horse is taking in more nitrates and excreting more nitrates, which is taking out more calcium and magnesium from the horse's body as well. The crude protein concentration of legumes, which is clover and lucerne. That's why she says on this site that if you've got issues with your pasture-affected horses, don't feed lucerne just because you're combining the excess potassium already in the horse's system. So it depends on what's causing your issues with your horse. So the crude protein concentration of legumes, which is clover and lucerne, is averagely much higher than grasses. There are other plants which are known nitrate accumulators to the point farmers are using them to reduce nitrogen leaching. More coming up on this subject. Now, I think I have that problem, and I don't know if that's Phalaris, but I think I have nitrate accumulators in my grasses, which is causing a high nitrate issue in my horse's diet as well. I just think I've got everything. I know I've got everything. So let's have a look. Cattle can utilize the excess NMP. What's that? Known as NMP or non-protein nitrogen. Okay, so that's the excess nitrogen increased part of the whole nitrogen content. So cattle can utilize the NNP in the rumen and build it into true protein, but horses cannot. When crude protein readings are very high, so after drought-breaking rains or in spring and autumn, nitrogen can significantly contribute to metabolic problems and be toxic to them. There's you, Sarah Becker. You've sent me a message. This is one. Okay, so when crude protein, sometimes I have to read things twice. When crude protein readings are very high, so after drought-breaking rains or in spring and autumn, nitrogen can significantly contribute to metabolic problems and be toxic to them. This is one of the reasons that it's difficult for horses to successfully share grazing that is meant for cattle. Their digestive systems are completely different. So horses, by choice, avoid consuming grasses growing on high nitrogen areas like where they drop their manure. Okay, so their manure must increase nitrogen levels. So frequent harrowing, that's something I used to do that I no longer do. Frequent harrowing of manure has the effect of spreading nitrogen more evenly and turning it in from slow release into a rapid release nitrogen for uptake by the grass. Not saying you should never harrow, but a lot of people do it often to keep things looking tidy. Think about whether it is appropriate in your particular grazing situation. So I used to harrow and now I don't. I pick up. Urea is another form of non-protein nitrates. It is not good for idea to fertilize your horse pasture with it or anything like it, like chicken manure, pulver, or NPK. I'm not sure what NPK is, but it's a high nitrate fertilizer. This is my problem with my pastures. Generally speaking, the younger and greener the grass, the higher in nitrogen it is likely to be. Grass that sprouts after a drought-breaking rain is very potent in both potassium and nitrogen. More mature grass, which has slowed down or is finished growing, tends to look yellower and is proportionally lower in nitrogen. Okay, so this is sort of a more brown grass there. Depending on the type of grass, there's little birdies. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway. Okay. This goes into that, so you can read up about that. So I think I've gone through. You can read up. I won't go into how to reverse it and everything because I'll go on forever because I still want, I'm looking at the problems. We can go into how to reverse it. It's on here, but obviously removing them from the pasture, supplementation and mycotoxins, mycotoxin binders. But there's lots of articles here. So good, such a valuable website. So we can see all the problems with the pasture. So we're just looking today. Let's just look at all the problems, and then look at how we can look at maybe in our next Q&A, look at how to resolve them, or we can do that. But I just wanted to take you to, because you've got lots of articles. So another website, let's see if, because it's really good. So I've got two websites that you can, that's such valuable information. And I just wanted to say, show something else, and then I'll go back. Okay. I'm on DuckDuckGo, and let's go to Gotcha. So there's another website called Gotcha. It's Australian. Whoop, Gotcha. Equine. Yep. Really good. Okay, so this is a website. Hope you can see it. Can you see it? Yes, cool. Gotcha Equine, a really, really valuable website, very similar to Calm Healthy Horses, and such a lot of information, all on pasture and lots of testimonials. I mean, there's all different types of, there's, you know, I'm not recommending any particular product because there's, I think these two websites, Calm Healthy Horses and Gotcha Equine, have really good products. I'm using Conky's Own myself. They've been fantastic for me. But I also know that a lot of people have had success with these other products. So I think that finding products with equine nutritionists and people that really work with pasture. Let's just have a look here. We've got, I think I'm home here, aren't I? So I'll just show, so you've got here important articles, so you'll find some really valuable. This is such a good website. So I won't go into everything because it's similar to what we've gone into, but let's just have a little look here. Signs of mycotoxicity and mineral imbalances. Like, I mean, look at this, mycotoxin, toxin binders explained, grass tectony. I mean, it's just a huge website. Head flicking. I mean, I've had everything. I literally have had everything with my horses. But let's have a look at, because they overlap in signs. So mineral deficiency. Okay, let's just have a look at signs of mycotoxicity and mineral imbalances. What are the signs of toxicity and or mineral imbalances? Because the signs of toxicity and or mineral imbalances tend to happen unpredictably and simultaneously, especially coinciding with flushes or pasture growth, it can be difficult and fruitless to try and differentiate. So it is best to address both issues regardless. So mycotoxins have also been found to bind up nutrients such as magnesium. So this is my problem, Paula. This is your problem as well. You definitely have a toxin issue. And a mineral imbalance issue. And this is exactly what they've said here. So let's have a look at the signs a horse may exhibit. Meanwhile, okay, toxins are the ones that have been ingested with pasture or feed. They generally respond to a toxin binder or removal from the pasture. Mineral imbalances are complex, and it is important to consider the interrelationship of them all. Excess of potassium and deficiency of macrominerals which is your calcium, magnesium, and sodium, has very serious consequences, which I have found out. They require urgent attention in the short term in the form of appropriate supplementation. Horses kept on a dry lot or stabled will also require vitamin and mineral supplementation. Meanwhile, if your horse exhibits any of the following, it is highly likely he is affected by his diet, in particular the grass he is eating. So let's just go through these. Often starts with general tetchiness, which is an unwillingness to be touched or tensing up and reacting when touched, especially around the chest and the thorax. So appears somewhat stiff, stepping short behind. This can cause cinchiness, girthiness, not standing for saddling and mounting, general crabbiness when ridden, so pinning the ears back, swishing tail, etc. Tightness, tenseness, impulsiveness, so wanting to run off, can't use your legs, so they're very sensitive to touch, reaching around to bite the girth when ridden. This progresses to touchy around the ears, difficulty with bridling, flings off suddenly when haltering, sore across the loin. So it's interesting how it can cause sacroiliac issues. Uncharacteristic bucking when first moves off when girth tightened. Excess of aggressiveness towards you or other horses. Excessive herd-bound behavior, screaming, manic, irrational, attached to another horse, can exhibit both these previous to opposite behaviors concurrently. Bucking, bolting off in short bursts, nutty or ballistic behavior. Sounds like your horses, what your horses are doing, Paula, and mine horses have done the same. So this is interesting. Hypersensitivity, excessive spookiness, alertness, shies away near approach, hard to catch, spaced out, wired, not there, hallucinating. Eyesight seems to be affected, can't judge jumps, overly claustrophobic, extremely sensitive to noise. Okay, so then we go to staggers, heavy on the forehand, stumbling over nothing, standing base wide. So when they're standing wide, their hind legs are wider at the back than the front. Difficult backing up out of floats, etc. Discomfort walking downhill, that's slightly drunked or zonked looking. Uncoordinated movement, staggering. Giving out in the hindquarters, laying down a lot in the paddock, dragging back feet, reluctant to go forward, reluctant to canter, won't canter. Heat stress, instantly overheats when you put rugs on, running madly around paddock for no reason. My horses were doing that. It was just insane what they were doing. Slamming into fences and gates. Well, I haven't had that. Excessive sweating, white sweats, smelly sweats. Sweating in unusual places such as top of the rump, patches on upper neck. General agitation, fence walking. Paula. Wow. Head flicks. Like a bug has flown up their nose, can be worse on sunny days, and head twitch. Now, my poor Tommy had this 7 years ago. Every spring, he would start to get this head flicking. I just thought there was little insects that he was annoyed at. I never heard of head flicking and pasture related. I just never heard of it. So my poor Tommy's had this issue for years, and I just thought he was sensitive to little insects flying around. So here's your string halt, jerky upward action of the hind limbs. Colic, when an autopsy shows hindgut necrosis due to vasoconstriction of blood supply to the intestine. So isn't that terrible? And that's from pasture. What was that from? That was I can't remember what we went through. It was from something. I get totally overloaded with information going through this stuff, guys. So it's good that we've got this recorded. Reproductive. Raging seasons, not cycling properly. So these horses that get very seasonal, like mares that get seasonal, difficulty getting in foal, abortion, prolonged gestation, reduced milk production, weak suckling foals. Ill thrift, and this is what I've had with my horses. Some of them have been, particularly one who's got big head, chronic, dull, rough coat. Won't put on weight, looks wormy but not. No top line. So my horses, he's got weight on. This one in particular, Tiger, has looked very dull in his coat. He's turned up with big head, like instant. He fractured his skull, actually. He had notes on his face before that. Going back here, last spring, I think it was last spring or the spring before, my horses instantly came up with lumps all over their face. I would say over half the herd, literally overnight, bumps, lumpy bumps, bony lumps on their face. It was horrendous. They've still got them. So this ill thrift is under bloated or pot belly, looks fat, but neck and rump are normal or thin. Consistently small, frequent manures, scours, diarrhea. So that's also a sign of hindgut acidosis. Lifeless eyes, dull, nobody home, glazed eyes. This is my Tommy. No energy, lethargic. My whole horses have been like that. Fall asleep on their feet, like narcolepsy. I've had that with my horses as well. So please read What's Wrong for a quick and easy to find out what could be your horse's problem. So I'm not going to go through this because we've gone through this before. The mycotoxins, toxin binders, grass technique. So this is what we just went through, nitrate toxicity. This is just what we went through, mineral imbalances. So I'll leave you to have a look at this site to go through all of this, because there's so much, but you can see everything here. Photosensitivity, see the sunburn. I've had problems with that, and this is mud fever. Head flicking, shaking, I've had a massive problem with that. Let's just quickly have a look at this. Head flicking, shaking is one of the most heartbreaking, exasperating, baffling conditions to affect horses anywhere. It's terrible. It has been established that it involves the trigeminal nerve in the horse's head. The trigeminal nerve originates behind the horse's eye, has branches down to the mouth, nostrils, and up to the ears. When this nerve is surgically cut or blocked, the symptoms immediately cease. But unfortunately, in the case of cutting, the nerve eventually heals up again to some extent, after which symptoms are worse. In the meantime, the horse has a droopy lip. So people with trigeminal nerve trouble describe sharp electric shock sensations in their face. It is an extremely painful condition and warrants urgent attention. We'll have a go. Globally, nobody has the idea of the cause of head flicking. Many treatments have been tried, everything from nose nets to masks, contact lenses, melatonin, spirulina drugs, blah, blah. So it goes here. It is really terrible, head flicking, but I have had, my horses have been a problem from pasture. Okay, trials conducted on bad cases of head flicking horses found that if they were left to graze on pasture, predominantly ryegrass and clover, the head flicking would persist and get worse, particularly over spring and autumn. When these same horses were moved onto native grass pasture or horse-safe pasture, such as cocksfoot, different varieties of brome grass, Rhodes grass, and bent grass, the head flicking reduced dramatically or stopped altogether. It has also been observed that head flicking can be triggered after fertilizing with superphosphate or feeding lucerne. There you go. So this is where I've had this problem. Horses affected by head flicking also appear to have photophobia. The bright light, they don't like bright light. So move head flicking horses onto more native pasture, take them off the grass at night. So this is interesting. So your head flicking may start with head twitching, involuntary jerking up and down the head like a bug has flown up their nose, leaping around. They also do, they rub their nose on their front feet, worsens us after exercise, is associated with photophobia. So based on strong theory of the cause, I won't read too much into okay. Here now believe the head flicking is caused by pasture spikes in potassium and nitrates, which occur in the cool, wet, cloudy, and even frosty conditions, spring, autumn, and sometimes other times of the year. This happens especially when you have ryegrass and clover, which are both inherently high in potassium nitrates anyway, or any type of pasture which has been stressed by drought, frost, or overgrazing when it is in rapid growth, or when it has been fertilized to increase production. Ryegrass, clover, and lucerne or alfalfa are all potent triggers for head flicking syndrome because they are inherently high in potassium nitrate and low in sodium. If your horse isn't eating any grass, then you would have to look at your hay, as it can too be high in potassium nitrates. Okay, let's just see why. I'll just go this and then I might finish our live because we've got a lot of information to absorb. So excess potassium nitrates are ingested with forage. This happens under certain climatic conditions. These nitrates must be eliminated from the body. That means by which is achieved is that latching onto calcium and magnesium are being excreted with them. This leaves the horse's system extremely high in potassium and at the same time extremely low in calcium, magnesium, and sodium. So because the horse is now low in calcium, magnesium, and sodium, and very high in potassium, this represents a serious, dangerous electrolyte imbalance. The correct sodium-potassium ratio and adequate amounts of calcium and magnesium are vital for normal nerve function. In head flicking, somehow this acute imbalance causes temporary, maybe sometimes permanent damage to the trigeminal nerve, which leads to involuntary firing characteristic of the head flicking syndrome. Reversing this syndrome, therefore, involves removing the cause, which is the offending pasture, hay, and other feeds aggravating to the condition, while simultaneously correcting the mineral imbalance. So why have we got the head flicking? It's the excess potassium nitrates, which are ingested by the forage, which then the nitrates need to be eliminated by the body, which is excess urinization. I think that's, and because of that, what happens when the horse increases, needs to remove the excess nitrates, it latches onto calcium and magnesium in the horse's body, and that's excreted with them. And therefore, we have a dangerous electrolyte imbalance. Now, with my problem as well, I've got my pastures stopping the absorption of calcium because of the high phosphorus content in the soil and pasture. So my horses have been, attacked from so many levels. And Paula, you've got a few issues happening as well. What to do, arrange somewhere for the horse to come off the grass at night with no grass. I think removing them completely. Feed ad-lib low nitrate hay, so no rye, clover, lucerne, or oaten or sorghum. And replenish with organic minerals and salt, 5 to 10 grams per 100 kilos. Over a period of 8 to 12 weeks, the head flicking will go away. Eventually, your lovely horse will be back. Okay, holy moly. So a lot of information. I won't go into more because I think we've gone through a huge amount of information, and I'm so sorry I can't see your comments. I don't know why that happened. But when I upload this, or when it's, I don't know if I would say that I'll probably see them when it's uploaded or when I put the replay on. I can reply to your comments. But I think this is a really, see, here's this. So you've got some wonderful stories. So if you're feeling really disheartened like I am or have been. I know there's a solution to it. The only problem with me is that I have 19 horses that I need to have permanently off the pasture, and that's just especially not having the space. You know, the cost of having them off pasture, but also the space of trying to keep, they love galloping out in the paddock. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, but I will work it out. But just wanted this site is wonderful. Articles, so many wonderful articles, horse stories. So if you're feeling disheartened, read up on this. There's some videos there as well. So I've got those two sites to share for you. Some wonderful minerals. I think a mycotoxin. So just Paula, before I go, I'm going to just show you what I feed with a mycotoxin binder. There's a couple of good ones, but this is by far my favorite. And I think you need a mycotoxin binder. Let me see if I'm back. Let me just turn this off. My screen. Oh my gosh. I am tongue-tied. But I'm just going to show you the mycotoxin binder. Let me get it. Oh my gosh. That's my mycotoxin binder. It's fantastic. Electox. I can talk to you, Paula, if you want to get some. I think it would be really valuable for you to give to your horses. It's excellent. So I might leave this live there. I'm so sorry that I couldn't read your comments. I have no idea why that is. I'll work that out. But let me know if this has been helpful. And what we can do is we can maybe look at, now you've got websites to go and learn more from. And we can chat, Paula, in the group. And yeah, look, I'll leave it there. I hope you could read everything. I know I couldn't read your comments, and my sincere apologies. I'll upload the replay for this later tonight, and we can follow up with maybe another live looking at what to do, and I can keep you up to date with my progress with my horses, because they've been severely pasture affected. So I am going to put them on a 6-month rehabilitation program and get them off the grass. So it's a bit of organising to do with that, but I've got them. I've got all my supplements ready to go. They've started on the Cal Extra and their vitamin and mineral supplements. And their toxin binders. So I'll leave it there because I'm getting tongue-tied and I need another coffee. But I'll see you in the group, and let me know if you found this helpful. Okay, bye.